Hello professors, whenever you may be watching this video, and welcome to Teaching Comp 3077. I'm going to try and make this as brief as possible, as there is a bit of an expectation with a video like this, that's professors, that you guys have gone through the course content, unlike the students who don't usually do that. So we'll talk briefly about the course content, but the main point of this video is to go through the general anatomy and the content, just see what's going on there, and then talk about MindTap/SAM, because most of you who are watching this have probably taught this before. And if you haven't taught this before, this is what you need to be watching so you know what's going on. But if you have taught it before, there are still some elements of the SAM that we used for years in the course built into MindTap, but everything works a bit differently now. And one of the things you need to know for sure that before you move forward is that I can't set up an account for you in SAM anymore. So, and if I'm even the course lead, we always get switched around with course leads. So this is Professor Mike Sloan, of course. You probably recognize me in the little camera cube there, talking to you in the fall of 2025 for the latest iteration of Comp 3077. If you have never taught it before since the fall of 2025, you will not have MindTap for our course set up in your Cengage account. You probably have a Cengage account, most professors do. So you're going to need to contact the publisher rep, whoever that may be, and get that done right away. So I have his information as of fall 225. I'll even put that right here. And Jim's been around for a while, and he's awesome. So hopefully whenever you are watching this video, because these iterations of Comp 3077 can last up to 4 years before we have to do another update. We've done like 4 massive updates, and this is the newest one in fall of 25. I think Jim would still be around, but if you go to contact him and he's not there, you're just going to want to contact Cengage and find out who the technology rep is at that time. And they will need to add the resources to your Cengage account and or create a Cengage account if you don't already have one. And then everything goes from there. So when I get to that part of the video where I'm talking about MindTap, there's an assumption that you've already gone and gotten your Cengage account, which either me or whoever the course lead is, years from now, if you're watching this, if I get switched to other courses, we will have advised you to go and do that. So when we get to the MindTap part of this video to teach you how to use it, you should already have it set up. Okay, so the course content, I mean, if you have taught this course before, it's quite similar. There's been some changes in the grade weighting and stuff like that. But the one thing you can do to orient yourself with the course, and the best thing to do, is to go into the course information section, that module with all those content items, just as the students would, and simply go through it. If you're able to sit down and take a little bit of time to do that, this is a very user-friendly turnkey course. And what you can also do, in addition to going through these items, and make sure you update your professor information right there. There's always places where you're going to need to update that information. It would be on the course homepage right here. You're going to want to add your professor information, so don't forget to do that. And you're also going to update it right here in the professor information content item, which may either be blank or have my information in there, or it'll have yours from the previous semester. But now that we have these course master sites, I think it's going to keep transferring over with my information in there, and you're just going to have to paste yours over mine and put it in there. Okay. And the other thing, while I'm adding things to FOL, those are the 2 main things. And then, of course, you need to update all your deadlines as soon as you go into FOL. So I need now for you to pause and go through all this information. It might take you an hour or 2, but to go in as if you're a student and go through this information if you haven't already done so, or you haven't, especially if you haven't taught the course before, so you understand the anatomy. So go through these, and you can click on the virtual classroom right here, which has all the asynchronous YouTube videos that we use for the online classes. If you're an online instructor, you still need to do at least an hour a week to cover the rough spots and stuff. But this YouTube classroom, which I'm currently just in the process of populating, will have everything to get started. So if you go through the week 1 videos and you can speed me up and stuff, you'll know exactly how the course works. At which point you'll realize you have to set your deadlines, which are almost always, unless there's a specific reason you need it not to be this, set to Sunday night at midnight. So again, now I'm assuming you've paused the video and gone through all the evaluations and how the course works. So I will go back to one content item here. Sorry, I'm bouncing around a bit. So this content item here, which I do custom for the students, this isn't automatically in our AODA templates. I just added this in there. It's got all the right fonts and all the text and stuff for AODA. This shows you what's going on every week. So I do not start a course at the beginning of the semester without every one of these deadlines already in the calendar. So in addition to adding your professor information in those 2 spots, that's the next thing you want to do. And then the third thing is adding your section information for MindTap, which I'll talk about in a second. So you want all these items to be populated, but you don't need to go and add a bunch of calendar items. This can all be done via the items that exist in the submission box, FOL quiz, which is just the one thing, and in the checklists. So what you would do is go first to evaluations quizzes and set the FOL quiz to be due at midnight on Sunday night at the end of week 1. You just go in here and you click edit. If you're in the semester of fall of 25, by the way, I've already done this for you because you copied over my course, and it may have been done for you if I change this in the master every semester and we do it that way, but just check and make sure. So this one's due at the end of week 2 here. We've already set it that way. You don't need to add availability in your calendar. Just set the deadline for the quiz and then put the due date. So due date with submission boxes and quizzes always shows up in the calendar, and then you don't have to check that box. So that one's done. And then if you go to the submission box, you can do the same thing for those 2 items under evaluation submissions. Okay, you go here, you click edit. This one's due at the end of week 2. And you'll notice I did it the same way. That way you don't have double up items in the calendar. So I don't, actually just, this one is automatically by the due date. You don't have the option to make it. I think because I set the due date, it doesn't give you the option to add to the calendar. It's just in there. So due date, we'll set it in the calendar. So that one's done. You do the same thing with the custom project for week 13 right below it. And then everything else other than those 3 items can be set in the checklist. So if you go to resources checklist and you go to checklist for weekly work and go to edit, you guys have probably used the checklist before. If you haven't, you need to be. It really makes this very efficient. And you can click here and highlight all and bulk edit. And then in the next window, you'll be able to edit the dates on everything and edit whether or not it's an event. So if you don't want double items in your calendar, the 2 items, the one that comes from the quiz is an item, and then the item for MindTap in the submission box, and then the other submission box items. I still put the deadlines in there, but I don't check the box that it's an event. Then I put the deadlines for every single other thing in the course, the quiz and the case every week that we do in MindTap SAM, and the tests. And I put the times that the test actually takes place in your section, in that particular section that you're setting these deadlines for. So even if I've set the deadlines with the course master and they're able to transfer that over, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work for future semesters if everything goes right off the master. I'm pretty sure that is. You're still going to have to go in and customize when your test will take place, both tests. And these are for this particular section. And then I set those as events, and then all of those automatically appear in the calendar. It'll take you like 15, 20 minutes. It's no big deal. See, and now everything's in the calendar on day 1, which is what we want, right? And I would frequently try and post news each week to tell them what we're covering and what we're doing, and always reminding them there's a case and a quiz. And a couple weeks before the test, I would add things up there in news and use the announcements frequently, and also send them emails. I'm a big believer in redundancy, especially if it's an online section. Have it in 3 different places. That way they can't miss it. I know that annoys some students, but I was taught that in a couple different versions of online training courses when we were doing, I forget what it was called years ago. We had that online certificate a bunch of us earned. Okay, so from there, you're kind of set up, and the only other thing you need to have, other than getting into FOL and navigating all the course content and putting the things in the right places and setting your dates and adding the professor information, is this MindTap access. And as soon as you get the access, you're going to ask the publisher, who again, at this point when I'm recording the video is Jim, to create a course based on the Master 3077 section that I've made, the master course that has, and we won't have to make changes to that. It's all in there. And once you do that, you will get a special link for that master course, which you can post in your news. And you can also post here in required course resources. That's the only place I have it in all of the content modules. That way you don't have to go in there and find it anywhere else. But this is that 4th thing I was talking about. So the 2 professor spots, then all the due dates, and then this is the thing you have to update. Everything else is done for you. So I have a link right here that's specific to my section. You're going to put that link to your section there. And then what happens is the students go click on that and it tells them exactly how to set it up. And I have a totally separate video for that in the virtual classroom that shows the students how to set up MindTap. So I don't need to show you that in this video. I'm going to show you guys how you set up MindTap. So I can just close that. I don't even need that open. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to, so now we're on to the next part here. We're on using MindTap and SAM with Comp 3077. Even if you've never taught 3077, you're still going to be fine because I'm going to go through everything here in the context of assuming you haven't taught it before. Those of you that have used SAM in the past, it'll be a little bit easier, but it's easy to get used to. So open up a new browser tab and go to account.cengage.com or login.cengage.com. Either one is fine. And with the account you set up with Jim here, because you probably already have a login with your Fanshawe email address. And what he'll do is he'll just put our resources, our required resources that you saw under required resources, that New Perspectives book that we're buying the ebook version of, he'll put that into your account and create your sections. And then you literally just go in and click on the sections. It's that simple. So when I log in here, I'm going to log in with my Fanshawe stuff because that's how I have it set up. My password's already there, should be fine. When I've been doing this, by the way, I want to mention this right now. I don't know if it's going to do it right now. It probably won't because I'm recording the video. But when I log in, it has this, it has this pause. And then it says something about deleting your cookies. And that was actually longer than it usually takes. And it usually resolves itself in about 2 seconds. And then it goes to the page. So this is what it should take you right into the Instructor Resource Center. And if you have any other courses in MindTap, they'll also be here. I have the sales book in here as well. And I think there's another, I have another one I was using, a different version of New Perspectives. They're both the same. So we might as well get the students, they're both the same price too. We might as well get them the entire Office version, right? So this book with MindTap, the students purchase, that's all covered in their video. You guys don't have to buy anything or do anything. You just have to get the representative set up an account, and then it should be there semester after semester. You shouldn't have to do that again. But what you will have to do each semester is get Jim to set up your sections. The only one who doesn't have to do that is the course lead, who is me at this point, because I built the master. So I've built the master as the course lead, and then all of the sections here are created in case I need to go in. So you'll see the sections you're teaching, and you simply click on the section. You don't really need to print the student instructions. That's already available in that link that Jim's going to provide you that you put into FOL in that special spot there. Okay, so when you get your course at the beginning of the term, there'll be a bunch of red text here that says this is where your professor will put the link. Here, I can even show you in the master version, just quickly so you know what I'm making a reference to here. Man, the internet's not... I wouldn't exactly say it's blazing fast today on campus here. But my audio will be tight. I'm in the recording room with the little green sheet behind me. It's pretty cool. If you guys are doing, if you're doing an online section and you're doing your hour per week and you want it to sound really good, we used to have a Yeti mic. Somebody took it. To me, that's the best bang for your buck for the money, is buying a Yeti mic. But there's also a mic in the recording room. It's a little condenser mic, and it sounds really good too. I'm using my Yeti, which is my own. I bought it myself because I wanted to use it for like guitar and music and stuff. So I didn't think Fanshawe should, well, I should have made it pay for it, whatever. But I didn't, because I thought, if I'm going to be recording music with my kids on there, I should probably, anyway. Going in here. So if I go into the master version of the course, which is probably what you're going to get, and I go to that same content item, I could have clicked on it from the news item there and announcements. You'll see how I do this every semester. I leave this like in a state of limbo until the professor gets their section made, because you get the section made. And the way it works with the 14-day trial period, and I do mention this in the student video as well, you tell Jim or whoever the rep is when your start date is for your course. And then I would leave the end date like way out, like 5 years out, in case the student needs to go back and take the course again. And you can always put them back in their original section. That's how they don't have to buy it again. But they can also add up to 2 more courses. So if you want them in a new section, it's just you don't want them to have to waste money on that. I know that's kind of tedious to have students that failed the course back in their original section, and then you have to check that. But if you're the same prof, if it's another prof section, it might get a little tricky. But anyway, I'm just trying to point all these things out in case they end up coming up. I doubt that'll come up very much. But that's where you would paste the link you're going to get from Jim. And then as soon as you log in and Jim's done that, you should see the book here and you should see your sections there. If you've already taught the course for a semester, fall 25 or later, like that's the newest version of this course from fall 2025. We never used MindTap for Comp 3077 before this. We used SAM, which you're going to get access through via MindTap, but we didn't use MindTap. So here's a section of mine where students have already submitted. So you will not have to put any of this in order. You won't have to set anything up or schedule anything. It's all there. And all the cases and quizzes are unscheduled. So they're available through the entire semester. And it's exactly the same as it was in the previous version of the course. If you taught the previous version of the course, if you haven't, then this is what it's like. You have everything in order. There's only one item in MindTap for SAM. I keep saying MindTap for SAM because the items are done via MindTap, but in SAM, which is right over here. You only have one item here in week 1 because you take the quiz on FOL in week 1. Every week after that, other than the test weeks, you have the case, and then you have the quiz and the training. And if you've gone through the material in the course, you know that the answers are literally in the training. And the answers to the case are in the video that demonstrates the entire case, or your lecture if you're teaching it face-to-face, that shows the student how to do every single step. So, and if you have further questions about how to teach that, you and I have already had a discussion if you're a new professor, and I've sent you an email that provides some more information, but this video shows you how to use all this and make it work with the course. So I have all these cases and quizzes here, but you don't see the tests. That's because they're hidden, okay? So if you go show hidden, in addition to the test files, you're also going to see everything that's available in this book, all the chapters and all the stuff within the chapters. That's all hidden too. So when the students go into SAM, they don't see all that stuff. They can go into their ebook and go through the chapters. And additionally, I'm glad I remember this, each weekly content item, unlike the previous versions of this course, if you happen to have taught it before, we just post in the weekly module what we're covering that week. Let's just go to a random anyone, module 4. And we have a list of stuff we covered in the case and the skills you're picking up from Excel. And then the quiz will further reinforce and add additional skills. So there's a bit more of a robust learning environment there. I also now, and these are the same in each week's content item, I've added the PowerPoint slide deck that's provided to the professors in your resource center for the students, because they are paying for this book and they don't get PowerPoint slides when they pay for the book. They just get the book. And I think these are really nice summaries if they want some additional resources of everything that was covered in that chapter, even some of the things that aren't covered in the actual case we do. If you want to know how, so I just wanted to mention that was there. If you want to know how this works and how the students download and submit the case, you just have to watch the weekly case videos, and you have to watch the student videos so you understand how to teach the course if you've never taught it before. Those of you who have taught it before, you don't have to do that and pause the video right now and get in, like you can just keep going through. But if you haven't taught it before, I would stop and kind of fly through the week 1 or 2 video as fast as you can so you can see how they download the file and make the changes and save the file in their second submission. And then what you have is a situation where the scores are there. But when they click on the case, it looks exactly like when I click on the case and submit as an instructor. They click on it, this is what they see, and you'll see this in their video. It goes to the same kind of preview screen we used to have in the previous version of SAM. They click start, and now we're full screen in SAM. This looks exactly like SAM used to use. You download the instructions, you download the case file, you change the name per the instructions, you save and close your file. When you're done, you submit it, you get your grades immediately, automatically. And as students continue to compile those reports up, they can go into SAM at any time by clicking on SAM over here and seeing their reports. So I'm just closing that back out because we're not going to do a case in this video. I'm just showing you how that works. What you need to understand are 2 big things that I want to make sure you're comfortable with. Number 1, how to get the marks and how to efficiently get the marks and get them into FOL. And there's 2 different ways to go and create and generate mark reports, one of which gives you the exact time they submitted the case, and at least it gives you the day they did the quiz. And you can create these by going into SAM without clicking on the item itself or going into the grade book right here. We're going to go back to that in a second. The grade book is what you want to use when you're transferring the marks to FOL. So you're going to go into SAM without clicking on a SAM case. You're just going to click SAM over on the far right menu here. Go slow. I think it might be my computer because I'm rendering another video at the same time I'm recording this one. So then maximize the window so you're full screen. And there's a section, results. And this is really similar to how results worked in the previous version of SAM. This isn't the grade book where you can export everything. This allows you to generate report. And you can also go to reports and it will give you all these different options for reports. But it's kind of just, if you just pick the same, I think we're already there. Actually, that doesn't even do anything. So what you want to do is first pick the type of report you want. So they've done the first project. And if they're doing the quiz, that's considered an exam in SAM, just like it used to be. I'm going to go to section results by project or section results by section even, and it'll show you all the stuff they've done. You can choose either one. And so by project, and I'm going to be sending every professor at the beginning of each term a folder that contains all the instructions, and that way you'll know which case is which, because I've just named them all inside of MindTap week 1 case. But then you'll know where it's coming from in the book, and you'll be able to make this connection. So that's the week 1 case. And you can see there is a report there. So if I click here and generate report, this will look exactly like those reports, those same style of reports we used to generate in SAM. And you're only needing this and using this so in case you need to check when people submitted. Because we always make it due Sunday night, but in the case you aren't around Sunday night, you don't get to go into the grades until Tuesday, you can go here and sort by submission date right here. And then you can you can take out the ones that were late, because the students, they should still be able to do them. I wouldn't go into the MindTap Center, and we're going to go back to that. But anyway, these reports look exactly like they used to look in SAM. And if you haven't used SAM before, that's how you generate reports that tell you when the stuff was submitted. But this is not how, you can't export from here, right? And what I wouldn't recommend doing is hand bombing the marks in by having this printed out or trying to copy this into an Excel sheet and then just typing the marks over. There's a way better way to do it that I'll show you in this video. So I'm going to close out of that, and I'm going to close SAM here, which always will take you back to the MindTap course. Close. So as we're here, you can see this is just called week 1 case. So it doesn't actually give you the option to know which case it is. Now you can get into that. I'm going to send that all to you, but I'll show you guys how to do that very briefly here before we go to gradebook. Okay, hang on. This is the reason I'm talking about this is, again, sorry, I just wanted to check my time. I don't want to make the, whatever you guys said. This is important that you guys go through all this stuff. The reason I'm talking about this is because from here, all you can see is that it's named week 1 case. You can't actually see what it is. You can't see the solution file. I know Dan was asking about the solution file. And Dan, I'll send you a text that you can go to 23 minutes to find out about the solution file. So what you want to do if you want to look in SAM at that context, at the course I've built for you, is you click on SAM over here, the same way you just did to look at results, but without clicking on a case over in MindTap. And it opens SAM up. And I always maximize SAM. It's just a lot easier to use when it's maximized. And instead of going to results, we're going to go to SAM assignments. And then you have all your sections here where you can see your assignments. Well, you don't have all of them. It's only the one section you have up. Now, what's a little bit frustrating about this is that it shows everything that's available. Remember how I showed you when I unhid how much stuff was there? So there is quite a bit of stuff. So I would turn off, if you don't want to see the quizzes, I'd turn off exams and training and turn off SAM paths. SAM's off. And this is just project. And if you search the word week, the projects that are custom named like that will come up. So here's all the projects, and then you click on the little eyeball icon, just like you used to in the old SAM, and it will give you the instruction file, start file, and the solution file that Dan was asking about. But I am going to send the instruction and solution files to you guys in a zip folder each time you begin teaching this iteration of Comp 3077. So if the 3 of you that are teaching it right now that happen to be teaching it this semester, who are Dan, Linda, and Jack, teach it again next semester, I probably won't bother sending that to you because you already have it. We won't need to do much. I'm just teaching you the ins and outs of the new way to use all this stuff. So that's how you get in there. And in terms of editing it, if you want to edit the stuff it says, That's the same as editing it in your course. It will take you to this if you do it from MindTap. This is just to go into SAM is the only way to get to the solution file and the actual name of the case file when you download it. And of course, when you go to do the case, that's how you also can make that connection and see which case it is, because it's when you do it as the professor and when the students do it, you obviously see the name of the case. It's just the solution file that's a little buried in here and hard to find. So make sure if you want those solution files and you don't have the folder handy where I sent them all to you already, that you just go in that way to get them. And it's the same way you would do reports to find out when they turned it in. If you're going in to get the grades to move to FOL, or you need to change marks because you worked on a case with somebody and then it still wasn't 100 even after you turned it in, that can all be done in Gradebook. So I'm in this section and I go to Open Gradebook right here. You don't go into SAM for this. So this is actually in MindTap. It's a little bit different. I think it's just as good. It might actually be a little bit better. I know Jack was kind of annoyed by some of the settings in the old SAM Gradebook, so I think this is better. So you go in here and it has you at home, and you can specifically go to certain items, or you can just go to Gradebook and it should list all the items like it used to, right? See right here, and this is where you can export as CSV. So this is how I always did my grades. I would export, and I don't need to turn this into an FOL lesson, but if you're in FOL and you go to evaluation marks, you go to export from FOL grades and you choose which grades you want to export. If you're doing two at once, you can choose them both and you get a CSV file. And I would always choose last name and first name and add that in there so you have that. There was a previous video I did with him that showed you guys how to do this. And then you have this list of all the student names. It's usually in order of student number, not alphabetical order. So I resort it by name. And then I go to my gradebook in SAM, which is now in MindTap, and I export this in CSV. And then I basically copy the column with the names in it, open up a column. You guys can, you're Excel professors, okay? You'll figure the rest out from there. But you can still export, and it's still really easy to do. And if you need to upgrade marks or change marks, that can be done here. Like these, I haven't done all these actually. There's only one student that wasn't there yesterday, and I promised these students, and this is something that I do sometimes in week one, we didn't finish the week one case until 7:48. It's a 6 p.m. lab with a 5 p.m. lecture. And I said, just, you all followed along with me. Make sure you submit your file as long as you get an 80, which is what that guy got right there. I will upgrade it to 100. And I just did this a minute ago. Why can I not click on these? I think the reason, okay, this is good that happened to me. So you can't, I thought you could change the marks. One student selected in here. Edit scores, there, edit scores. Okay, so you can do it in here. So I had been editing the scores here. I had gone in here and adjusted scores here so I can adjust, just this assignment. And when you click select all students, adjust score. How was I doing this? I was just literally just clicking on it and editing it. No, I think it's still better in the gradebook. Sorry, I'm just learning this too. So adjust scores, edit scores. Okay, I got it now. I'll show you how to do it in both. So I was in here just for the specific to the week one case, and I had gone in and I can edit the score up to 100 here, which is 90% of the time what you're doing, which was one way to do it. Okay, so set up to 100. Should go apply, sorry. Over in the right-hand corner, apply. And now it's 100. So this would be a faster way to do it if you're doing more than one up to 100. So I'm going to do these last two up to 100. And this was by clicking on, clicking on the individual item. And then you're able to do multiple students at once. That one person wasn't in class, so I'm not doing that one. I'll leave that one at the bottom to do the other way. And that person didn't turn anything in. I don't know what happened there. And then with all those there, I still have that set to 100. I hit apply. So if the score needs to be something else and you're just making a custom adjustment, that would be done in Gradebook. And then what you can do here, let's say it's this person, right? So selected students, action. Not extend due dates. Why is it right at the bottom? So you don't have to check them. You don't have to check the student. Just click the student's name in there, and then go to the week 1 case and double click it, and you can change the mark like this. So I would change this. So edit score. You got to click edit score, change the 80 to 100, hit save, score updated, and then you can just close this. And then you can go back from here, back browse. And then when you go down here, nope, it's still 80. Oh no, there it is, 100. Okay, good, 100. And all the rest of these are 100 as well that I bumped up. So doing it that way, there, okay, that's what I thought. I'm like, I'm surprised it still shows an 80 there. It was just waiting to refresh. It's a little more tedious, but then you can put in any mark you want by clicking on the name. So once all the marks are where you need them to be, because there aren't a lot of weeks where I mess around with that unless I'm in lab doing the guaranteed 100%. If I have an online class, I just take the grades and export them. So you go in there. If you happen to go in right after it was due, you can just export them straight out of there. If you need to check the deadlines, I would leave their mark in there still, but I just wouldn't count it when you transfer it to FOL if they didn't turn it in on time. So I go here and I export and I do CSV here the same way. And then I would just merge this stuff. I always merge into the one I download from FOL with the little hashtags after the names so that I don't have to worry about changing any of the formatting in there, and then I import it directly into FOL. So, and you can always refer back to my old SAM video, or I had that whole video about how to import and export the grades, and it would still be applicable here. This is just you're exporting them from MindTap in a bit of a different way. And when you do it, it's unlike in FOL, you don't have, what do you call it? You don't have the option to change the names and stuff. Man, my computer is just so slow right now. So I'm going to put that in downloads, save, and let's just take a quick look at that. Holy cow. I'm sorry this video is like a half hour long. I just wanted to make sure you guys all knew exactly the ins and outs of this platform now that we're still in week 1 now, but we have technically started, and I want to make sure you're comfortable with everything. And the best resource to use after this in any given week where you're not sure about something, how it works on a case, or if there's any quirks or anything like that, is to watch my recorded video for that case. So with the MindTap file now open, you can see it does the same thing Sam would do. You get these first 2 columns that are just the overall stuff, but you're going to be putting in 1 or 2 items at a time. So then this, you already know, is case 1, right? And then you would line this column up in the next file that comes from FOL right underneath case 1. I always add a column and line the names up next to the names. You don't need that because they don't have student IDs. That's just a MindTap ID. And then you basically just move this over. Now, I did notice those are marked as 100%. So you might have to do a quick edit there, because if you turn that off, percentage. Oh, so that's not even a, is that, yeah, it does say percentage. Oh, I was trying to, geez, what am I doing? I forgot how to use Excel. So I would change that back to basic number, and then I would do a quick calculation. Equals that times 100, right? And then you're going to have the percentage. So it's annoying we have to do that. The last Sam just gave you the number, but it's fine. And then you can get rid of that, right? And you can take this and, oops, sorry. Probably want to do one of these. Numbers only. And you can get rid of that and take that chunk of data, add a column so you can line up the names and make sure, because they might not be in the same order, right? You always got to check that. If you're in there as a demo student, because I've already demoed twice now, I've gone in as a demo student, you make sure to get rid of those beforehand. And I think to clean up those users, you're going to have to ask the rep to do that. That was one last thing. Anyway, so that's how you do that. And you get your marks, no problem, exported, no problem, just like we did in SAM. It's a little bit different, but it's still, to me, just as easy. Roster. Okay. Click roster. Compose email, copy email address. Those are not. So if you get somebody in your section that somehow needs to be removed, I don't believe we can even do that now. But we should, the likelihood of getting students in a section that shouldn't be in there drop student. No, we can. We can get rid of students. Okay, good. So we don't have to bug Jim for that. So I can drop my 2 Sloaners once I use those past the trial access, because once you're past the trial access, you don't need to keep creating student accounts. You will still, as the professor, when you're logged into your account, which I am right now logged into my instructor account, I can just click on the week 1 case and I can start, and I can do it in SAM just like a student. And when I submit at the end, it will generate a report for me right here, like a student. And those reports probably won't be in your grade book, but then you can just show this. So it's the same as being in SAM and going to student view. So I think that covers everything I wanted to cover. And you guys should be good to go now. And I managed to do that in closer to 35 minutes, but whatever, less than 40 at least. Thank you for watching. I know the other course was working fine, but the videos were just getting too dated. There's a lot of neat new stuff in the latest version of Excel. 365 is constantly updated, so these are going to be better cases and a better delivery for the students. Let's enjoy. This is my favorite course. It's always a good one. I will talk to you guys later. You know how to reach me if I am still the course lead. If not, just contact your course lead if you need anything. I'm sure it'll still be me. I've had this course forever and I love it. I will talk to you later.